All right, welcome to the Foray Music Podcast. I'm Charlie.
I'm Alexandria.
And I'm Amy.
On this week's pod, news from the Panama Jazz and Caroga Lake Music Festivals, Charlie's deep thoughts on practicing, and our Four for Foray Tiny Desk concert article from this last week.
I just got back from Panama.
News.
News. You're here.
I went to Panama with my master's program under Berkeley Global Jazz Institute, under the direction of Danilo Perez and Marco Pignataro. And we went there for their Panama Jazz Festival. They're celebrating 20 years this year. And so they took us a quintet. And it was actually so amazing. Like when we first got there, they had a presentation at the Panama Canal Live Museum. And it was about this guy, Luis Russell, who's like Catherine Russell's father, and talked about how this Panamanian man had a influence in jazz music, and how he brought some of like the things from Central America to jazz, what was happening with jazz. And he was like playing with Louis Armstrong and all these other like great bands, and what he learned from it. And like Louis Russell then taking on Roy Haynes, I believe, the drummer, and like giving him his first gigs and all this stuff. So it was really interesting to hear about that. And then we ate so much good food. So much good food. There's this it's like chicken soup called sancocho. And it cures your entire soul. I kid you not. It cures your entire soul. You're like feeling like crap. I was feeling like crap. And they're like, have sancocho. I was like, okay, I'm going to have sancocho. And I had it and it cured my entire soul. And then musically, it was amazing. Got to meet so many people, and the power of music, and like how music actually changed the trajectory of these people's lives. Like in Panama, it like the economy is not the best. There are a lot of people living in poverty. So for these people who were like not destined, but their future could have looked like them. One of the guys, his testimony was like, I could have been selling fruits and veggies on a street, but because of Danilo Perez and Patricia Perez Zarate and what their foundation in Panama, and like the opportunity that they gave him to do music, he's able to like have a solid career in music and like support his family, and really, not be selling fruits and vegetables on the street. He's what I think he is now the director of education at the Danilo Perez Foundation. And he's like with the Ruben Blades bands and all that stuff. So he's playing all around. Anyways, we were playing music and it was fun. Like the exchange was amazing. At first, like the music with the quintet, the music really wasn't happening. Like we were just not working together. And then for some reason we went out salsa dancing that night. And then like the next day we sounded so different.
Oh my gosh.
The salsa dancing actually like cured everyone and like made us in sync somehow, like dancing with one another to like this music. We all started like having the same internal clock or something, and we all just like started feeling the music in a different way. And like the next day we had rehearsal, and it was just like so much better than the first rehearsal. Everyone was like, oh my gosh. And then we played, and the audience was like crazy. They were in like, I've never seen some people go crazy over jazz. People were like, after each solo, they're like, like they were going crazy after a solo. We played a ballad, going crazy.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh. And at the end, everyone's like dancing in the aisles. I was like, oh, can I be here every day? These people are going this crazy over jazz. Anyways, needless to say, it was a fantastic trip. And I'm so excited that I was able to do that. It made me very it reset my brain as to like why I do this music. and or not do this music, but do music and like the true healing power of it. So yeah. Wow, that was long.
It's great. I mean, yeah. So the one of the biggest differences between like doing something like that here and there is one of it was like the energy of the audience.
Yeah, definitely. Like 500%. Even like just the energy of the musicians like here, like we are so tired. We are exhausted. I kid you not. Like in music school, we are so exhausted. When we talk about music, we're like, oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. But like, oh my gosh.
I
Here they
love
talk about
music so
music.
much.
Yeah. They're like in music school and they're like, oh my gosh, music. Yes. I'm like,
Wow. That's infectious too.
exactly.
That's really cool.
But do they just talk about everything that way there? Like,
Kind
I
of.
wonder for like, like there's always the joke where it's like, British people are just kind of like, the meme of that is just like kind of being sad and like not really like communicating emotions very much. It's like being like very even
Flat
keel all the
white.
time.
Yeah.
I just wonder if like that's like a compared to like Latin countries or something like that's basically we're like sad English people in the rain and suits.
I think, yeah, maybe. I just think they have a lot to be thankful for because there it's really hard. It's really hard. And like, I think they're just happy to be alive and like they really truly like live life to its fullest because they know like tomorrow's not guaranteed, especially for some of them. Like, tomorrow really, like when they were growing up, it really was not guaranteed. So to be able to live a life that they're living today is just like so beautiful. For them, it's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't have imagined this. And they're waking up every morning saying, I cannot believe this is my life. And so I don't know. Yes, but almost all of them are like that. Their energy is like you said, Amy, it's like very infectious and like,
Aw. That reminds me of Charlie's like wanting to be alive as opposed to maybe finding meaning, but maybe being alive like is the meaningful thing. Anyways, that's cool. I think
You want
that's
to talk
important.
a little bit about the Caroga Lake Music Festival?
Of course, I shall. It was weird because I hadn't been in like 4 years and it's fully a festival now. The last time I went, it was like in a garage. Basically, the story goes there's this like arts collective. They're renovating an old amusement park in the Adirondacks. And they bring in artists, and I should probably know more info, but basically they like have artists for like a season and they put on concerts, and it's just this idea of like prioritizing the arts and promoting the arts, and like a lot of people care about it in that area. And growing up, I grew up kind of side by side with family friends, another family of five. I'm from a family of five, and we would just make music on the porch, or like it ended up being in a garage after a while. And one night, the one year, the people from Caroga like found people jamming, like us jamming late at night. And so the founders are like they're my god brothers, because my godparents and my parents are close, and then I call their sons my god brothers. So they're kind of like the it guys for this Saunders Fest that's developed, and basically they have a whole day of this Caroga Lake Arts Festival. And it's basically like what we used to do, but just on steroids. And there's like a jazz set now, and there's like bluegrass, and they're bringing in kind of like some bigger names because there's budget now to do that. So there was like a songwriting circle this year, but it was really cool. First, because I haven't been singing a ton, so I was like raring to go. I did like the jazz set, and I was like, "Let's go, let's make music." So it was really nice to kind of be with my family as adults and reconnect with the Saunders, the namesake of the festival, or that day. Anyways, I'm trying to get it all straight. It's all very new to me. There's a lot of moving parts. But the one weird thing, and not in a dark way, it was just strange to like perform that type of music for people, because there was an actual audience. Like, I don't want to guess wrong, but there were like a lot of people there in this like nice park. But it felt weird because it's music that I grew up singing. It wasn't ever really performing because it was like extremely circle music. So in some ways I think it's cool because I love spreading that. Like I think that's music that's so important to hear and to be a part of. But it was a little strange to be like singing to an audience because that's not really the point of the music, at least in that one part of the set. That was just something I've been thinking about. But there was also like a great bluegrass set, and the songwriting circle was dope. Michael Mayo was there. Hello.
Whoa.
Like, and probably other peeps of that like vibe. But yeah, it was just really inspiring. And I also just love that the scenery is the Adirondacks because it's a very precious place to me. And I love that people know about it. I just think it's cool. Not that I want it to become anything else than what it is, but it was nice. Like people who were there really wanted to be there and cared a lot about the music, and it was really cool. Anyway,
That sounds lit.
it was fun.
It
It was really fun, and they had like a food truck and like drink. Like it's like a festival now, and they're doing so much for musicians and artists, which is amazing.
I've never so like when people say like a songwriting circle, that's like you sit around in a circle and people play their songs for each other, or you're like writing a song in a circle.
I feel like I'm unclear too because I know there's like a Nashville thing. Like I don't really know what that is, to be honest. This was like led by Richard Saunders. I think his music name is just Rich, but he's done stuff with like Third Story and he has a group called Refs. He makes just awesome. I love his stuff. It's very him, but he basically led it and would introduce each artist and then ask like a question about their process afterwards. But it really was just like song, 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 song. Kind of like a studio class, but without the academics. Whoops. Anyways.
What would you do without the academics? What will we do?
No one finished and they were like, so did you like it? Like, not the vibe, but yeah, it was cool.
That's great.
I like how it start. Charlie,
Every time, Alex.
Figure it out.
You need like a hand signal when it's like time to like transition to the next thing. Alex, what do you got? Let's hear
I
it.
like how it just like flowed out of pure love and like just like family time doing what they love to do. First off, I don't think I know a more musical family. What the heck? Like I saw all of y'all like can sing and play and do all of these things. I'm like, it's such a beautiful thing to first witness and then like to have something just grow out of just like pure love for one another and pure love for music. I think that's just such a beautiful way of going about things. That's how it all should be.
It was really special. It put like almost like a tangible thing to what it means to be part of, like I always am like, if people will ask, I'll say like, oh yeah, I was raised in a musical family, but it just becomes like a phrase. So it was weird to like finally, after having like gone through school and like being in this part of my life now, to go kind of like back, because it was very, very nostalgic and opened like a lot of pretty good memories, but just like heavy memories, because it's like it really has formed me, I think.
Yeah.
But it's what I love about music. It's like, that's why I think I always get kind of like in the weeds, because to me, that's really what music is. But it can be so many different things that it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it is different things to different people, which is of course fine. But because it's so like deeply personal and like tied to family and like all these things, it's like, yeah, definitely informed what it is to me. I hope people are like watching this because I'm so awkward and there's so much like facial comedy. I shouldn't call it comedy actually, but
I was waiting on Charlie to say something. And I was like, I'm not going to speak over Charlie.
I'm not going to speak over Charlie either. It's me, Charlie, for those of you listening at home. Okay, well, uh, that news was a lot of big news, and that's very cool. Very different things, obviously, in very different parts of the world, but uh, some similar energy.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Speaking of not trying to get too academic, I
Let's go.
my thing to share this week is incredibly academic in some ways.
I like academia, I should say. I'm not dark on
Yeah.
academia.
Well, it's okay. I think it's okay to be. It's like kind of
Okay.
being like, um, I don't know.
It's a mixed bag.
It's like I'm against cars, and you're like, well, okay, that's a strong point of view. Cars
That's
run over
funny.
people, and it's like, whoa, yeah, that's
Wow.
that is true. I hate cars. Cars suck. Um, uh, we're a few weeks now from the school year. I mean, some people have started. I think some of our friends have started
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
school up this year, and which is a terrifying idea for me. I'm working on like some final projects that I promised myself that I would get done over the summer, and so I'm like very stressed out about fall happening, but I'm also very excited about the new school year. I think it's gonna be really cool. I'm excited to do some new things and to kind of like get back into the swing of things. I've been telling people the last like week or so when they've asked me like, "Are you excited about going back to school?" And the answer is like, if I don't if I don't think about the few things I like wanted to get done before the summer was over, if I don't think about those things, I'm like 100% stoked for the fall. Like I want to see pumpkins, want to watch Halloween
Oh,
movies, I want to
yes.
like see students,
Don't get me started.
I want to hang out and do all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but I just have this like thing hanging over me, these like self-imposed deadlines that are kind of stressing me out. But I am getting excited for the fall, and uh, a ritual for me every fall and every spring, but mostly in the fall, is to like take a hard look at my private lesson studio policy document, which anybody who's like had lessons with me knows that it's like it's something that I care more about than anybody in the universe. I just like, oh, I want this document to like fully express me, but fully express all my feelings about teaching lessons, but like also be like 3 pages. And so I'll always like add a sentence in that like has become really important to me, and then I'll like have to go find a sentence to like take out, and so it's a kind of an interesting. It's like a living document for like my philosophy of teaching a little bit. Um, but long story short, it does get it. I will come to a point. The one thing I've been thinking a lot about is practicing, which is like a really fun topic everyone likes to talk about.
I
Um,
do.
but I had Maddie like read it over because I had made some changes and stuff, and I was like, Maddie, read this over and make sure like I'm not saying anything horrible in here, or there's not horrible typos or whatever. And she was like, yeah, it's great. And I'm like, but, and she's like, there was a part of it that made me feel kind of weird. And I was like, okay. I was like, what part? She's like, I don't, it's not important. I was like, was it the section on practicing? And she was like, 100%. It was the section on
Ah,
practicing. It really stressed me out. So I start this. I have a little part of my lesson policy that says note on practicing. That's what it used to say. Now it says note on practicing. In other words, like your practice. And so it started out before, and it starts out still with the sentence that says, practicing much more than performing is what musicians do. And when I then the sentence that used to follow that is that if you're not practicing, you're not a musician. and and
wow, 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 wow.
pretty
Charlie.
I think it's pretty brutal, but I kind of like stand by the basic idea of that, which is that we're obsessed with like the tip of the iceberg thing that's like above the water level, but like the but the really the actual experience of being a musician is like the stuff that's under the
Mm,
water, like the big iceberg under the water.
I hear that, yeah.
And um and I don't know. I but I and it comes from this place of identity, really, and having students, particularly college students, that in the past mostly that have not in the future. I don't think, not yet. Maybe my experience of my students has mostly been in the past. The very
Charlie
profound
sees
thing
into
to
the
say.
future
Yeah,
exclusively on Foray.
exclusively. um, but but I have had students that like really want to be musicians, like think of themselves as musicians, but like never practice, basically never ever practice, and kind of almost have never ever practiced in any sort of like really focused way or something, um, and it causes all these problems. It's like a very brittle like place to exist in because it's like any sort of ask to slightly move in one direction or another, it just kind of breaks down. And long story short, again, even longer story, even slightly shorter. I rewrote this section, and I still start by saying practicing much more than performing is what musicians do. But then I go dot dot dot. But what I mean by practicing has much more in common with something like a yoga practice, a culmination of a number of productive things moving in a similar direction, with an allowance for good days and bad, um, than probably what the traditional way of thinking about practicing is. And then I go on to say, your practice. Sorry if I'm reading and this is boring, but
Not
100% of
boring.
you will not see
No.
this, so it's the only way for you to experience this. But um, I go on to say, your practice does not only mean locking yourself in a practice room for an hour and singing the same songs or exercises and blah blah blah. It can mean that, and in order to meet deadlines, it will probably have to from time to time. But constructively, it's much more useful to think of all the things you do musically as part of a larger practice, a
Hmm.
musical way of life. Put another way, think of being a musician as a verb, not a noun, which is not something that I invented, that idea, but but that kind of gets to this like identity part of it, you know. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. Then I kind of like wrote it, and I was like, that sounds like something. I was like, do I believe what I just wrote? Like, do I think that's true? And it kind of got me on this thought, this idea of like verb versus noun, and this thought of like when I'm doing musical things, like, and there's a whole list of things. Um, I'm a musician, and or that's being a musician. And when I'm not doing those things, I'm not a musician. And for me, actually, when I started to think about it that way, and it's been for a short period of time, I had I started to feel some sense of relief from this idea that when I'm not doing musical things, I'm not a musician, kind of meaning that
Huh.
I don't have all of these like expectations or something for every second of my day to be being a
Yes.
musician. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And to be like, if I'm not practicing right now, like I am wasting time or something, or I'm missing an opportunity to get better at playing or singing. And if I'm not writing right now, or if I'm not like listening to new stuff, and it's like, if I'm watching a movie or if I'm reading a stupid book or something, it's like I'm not, like I think I do feel some amount because it is so self-directed because I'm my own boss. It's like I feel like my boss is always watching me. Like my boss is always like
Yeah.
supervising me
Yeah.
and surveilling me or something. And so it's nice to be able to just be like, if I'm not doing a musical thing, I'm not a musician. I don't have to follow. I don't have to like punch that clock right now. I'm like
I
not
like
stealing
that.
from the company. And I don't know how I'll feel about this idea in a week even, but um, but it kind of was like a weird um, circular like way of kind of getting to this idea that seems kind of interesting to me. Any thoughts? I know that's like a big info dump of a paragraph of my syllabus, but does that sound like complete BS or um,
No.
No.
I'm uncomfortable. I think maybe just because of how long I've been like, I am a musician. It is my identity. Like,
Yeah.
I feel weird. I would feel weird saying it, but I can completely back the conceptual part of it, especially the part about practicing being like the iceberg underneath, because I think that's like spot on. And like maybe not the sooner because everybody's on their own like timeline, but I think that realization is like a huge one to make or sit with because I think it really I don't know, it kind of like puts you down two separate ways depending on how you think of it, like whether you're really focused on the tip of the iceberg or whether you go into like the gnarly, to use a Charlie word, the like the nitty gritty like stuff that doesn't always feel that good, like that kind of thing. I think it differentiates kind of like different paths to take. And I like the concept of kind of just like, yeah, alleviating the expectation because you need to sleep and you need to eat and you need to have fun and to make cool art, you need to like see things in the world.
Yeah.
You know, like that is like it's part of being a human. I guess it's just kind of like prioritizing humanness above this like idea that we have to practice and be doing all the time. I don't know where does that
I
come from too though? Why
I
do I
don't
feel
even
like that?
I feel I understand where you're coming from because sometimes this is where like immediately I went to a space in my brain where even if I'm doing laundry or if I'm cooking, which is necessary as a human to do, I'm like, is this really productive? Like I should be practicing right now. But this is like I should be doing this right now because I need to like wear clean clothes so that I can make friends, or not make friends, but so I can
I'll be your
feel
friend
at
even if you wear dirty clothes.
thank you, but I can feel good about myself because I know I smell good,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
um anyways, it's a reminding it's reminding ourselves of our humanness within being a music. Yeah, we're a musician and we are a musician, but first we are human,
Yeah,
which I love that being a musician is a verb
me
type
too.
deal. Also, also it's like that whole like it's all about the journey and not the destination. So those who are getting into the nitty gritty are like enjoying the tediousness of the journey and like the um the desire for the information, the desire to be, the best that you can at your instrument. Um but yeah, I feel that like putting the humanness before the musician, allowing yourself to be human and turning off. Not turning off, but I don't know a better phrase, but
The
allowing yourself to not, to let go of the musician identity for a little while.
Yeah, I think the boss metaphor, well, I don't know if that's a metaphor. The boss example was like so perfect. It is true because I think about that all the time because you know yourself. So you know when you don't feel like practicing, or you know when you're like, oh, I don't know if I know the bridge to that, or like you know all of it. And so it's almost like for me, I have like the part of myself that's like, if you had practiced that 5 minutes longer, you probably, or whatever, 5 minutes more, it's not about the length, but like 5 minutes deeper, you would have known it better. But then there's the other part of me that's like, yeah, but I was so tired and I like felt like I had a stuffy nose and I didn't want to get sick. Like you have all of it. Anyway, maybe I'm just uber anxious, but
No, impossible. Anyways, there's probably more to. I know there's, at least from my end, there's like way more to say about all this, but I'll spare everybody and not talk about it anymore. But
I love it. I'm like, let's go, hour two.
Yeah.
maybe I'll write more about it at some point here. Maybe I'll try to get to some of my students' reactions to this paragraph if
Yes.
they have any particular reactions. It's kind of interesting because I think generally students are either kind of like, yeah, that's the deal. Like, yeah, that's right on. Like, yeah, you need to push us really hard. And then some are like, you're literally killing me. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
so afraid of you. I just want to hide. Like,
Yeah.
um, and so it's kind of, it'll be kind of interesting. to see any sort of reaction to it. But anyways, I'm excited about it, and like I said, I may not feel this way about this in the spring, but that's how my syllabus is going to go for the fall at least.
Can I say one more thing about it?
Please.
I feel like also in a college setting, at least when programs are super intense, that's like actually very important to hear because there's so much Emma Hedrick, what did she use? She used something like you get power hosed with information and then you're like, oh my God. And then the summer you're like, oh, I finally have time to learn this. But do you even really in the summer? And then it's like this whole timeline thing that makes no sense. And I love all the information I learned in college and I'm like keeping all of my notes and like voice memos and things so I can keep shedding it. But I think it's important to hear that when you're also getting like the deadline thing when you have whatever, like an exam about something that you just learned like 5 days ago.
Right.
I don't know.
Insanity. Again,
Insanity.
insanity. Higher education. It's the car that only kills people. um, it's the demon car.
No.
Oh,
No, but yeah, there's definitely like a lot of work to do in higher ed as someone that's like very deep into all of that. There's a lot of work to be done to kind of like make all that work better for everybody. But one paragraph on practicing at a time. We're gonna figure it out.
3 pages limit. Syllabus can't be longer.
Um, okay, let's hop into this week's 4 for 4A list. So we're trying kind of a new thing this last week on the Substack where we're kind of listing our 4 favorite of something. This time, we each got to choose 4, but I think in the future we might do that in a bunch of different kinds of ways. Like we might just choose 4 overall, or we've talked about doing like a draft of something if we're feeling particularly strongly about stuff. But I'm not exactly sure what's going to be next, but we're definitely going to do like a holiday album, like 4 for 4A, like best holiday albums or our favorite holiday albums, or we've talked about like doing books or different albums by things. It might be kind of fun to do like different artists and stuff, and like do albums of theirs, particularly artists that have like done a ton of stuff. That might be kind of fun. But our focus this month was NPR's Tiny Desk Concerts, a favorite of so many of ours. And I think these have been a huge deal for a long time. It started in 2008, but definitely during the pandemic, for me, it was 2 things in particular. It was like kind of going back into the archives and just like watching a bunch of older Tiny Desk concerts because it was like there was nothing happening. I was also watching, by the way, like old basketball games like from the 90s like on YouTube.
Oh
I
my
was so
God.
bored and like wanted there to be sports and like things happening that I was like,
That's
I'm just
so
gonna
funny.
watch the Bulls from the 90s.
How did it work? Were you like,
Yeah.
woohoo?
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of stuff on. There's a bunch of stuff. It like looks really weird, but
Love it.
anyways, and like went back and watched a bunch of Tiny Desk concerts because it was like I need to like see and hear some music in that kind of a way. And then I think with the Tiny Desk Concerts like from home series, where a lot of things kind of got kicked up a notch production level with those. That I think that just kind of like made it probably 2 or 3 times bigger than it kind of even was at that point. Like I think for a while it was kind of just my music friends were like, oh yeah, Tiny Desk Concerts and stuff. But I think now it's like really gotten into like the popular like zeitgeist
Yeah.
and popular
yeah.
culture in a totally different way. So I thought we would. So we each chose 4, and this is up on foraymusic.substack.com for anybody who wants to check out. But I thought we'd just kind of like go kind of round robin style through our picks kind of quickly and just like talk a little bit about why we chose them, and if anybody has like if anybody wants to thinks some feedback on the choice, that's totally cool. I'll start since I'm talking and I can't stop talking. So my first choice was Anderson .Paak and the Free Nationals. this was not the first Tiny Desk concert I ever saw, but it was like it was one of the first-ish ones
Mm.
that I saw, and like it something kind of clicked in my head. I think both for like the Anderson .Paak thing. I'd never seen Anderson .Paak before. Like I'd heard some of his music, but I'd never seen him play drums and sing and rap and stuff all at the same time. And I
It's
also think,
kind of crazy, honestly.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it's
I'm
so
just like thinking
like
about Anderson
what
.Paak. Like,
insanity. And where he is now? What the heck? Anyways, sorry, Charlie.
yeah, no, it's okay. And I also think too, like one of the big things about the Tiny Desk concerts, particularly when they're actually at like the office of NPR, is that like it has to be a certain level. Like they're using these kind of like directional mics, but like things are not like super close mic'd, and there's not like a ton of mic channels and stuff. So it's like people have to play kind of quiet enough that they can, if someone's singing, that they can like hear the singer without it being amplified, and they all have to fit in this like little corner. I know we love corners.
we
The corner.
love corners.
Amy
The
is like
Foray
obsessed with getting her
listeners,
podcast corner.
I am. They don't even know what's coming. Like, they don't even
They're not
know.
ready. They're not
They
ready.
don't know. Alex and I are going to Home Goods. I'm gonna leave it at that. Anyway.
Um, but yeah, just like the his drumming is so cool and good, and they're like playing really really high energy music like really quietly, which is like kind of like a special thing for me in particular. Um, but yeah, and it's just so cool. He has just such an interesting voice, and I think like some voice teachers would hear him sing or talk in something and be like, someone got hurt. Who hurt you? Who hurt you, Anderson?" Um, but I'm like fully for it, and it's like such a unique sound, and I really dig like all the different kinds of sounds he can make vocally and stuff. To get like a little nerdy about it, but any thoughts about this concert?
I'm just hearing in my head the dun, 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 dun. I don't even know if that, I forget what it's from, but it's something Anderson.
Yeah, and I'm also kind of like somewhat obsessed with the keyboard player. I think I've
Ugh.
never said it out loud, but T Nava, does that seem right? Is the name of the keyboard player in the Free Nationals, and like
Mm.
he it just is so like just looks so effortless, like playing. He's like, mm, mm, and like just kind of moving his finger. It's just like it's killing. He's like playing these licks and octaves and stuff. It's just like it all
Mm.
it all really works for me. If there's no other thoughts, we can move on, Amy, to your first one.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeba.
Yeba.
Yeba's like an interesting one because I feel like there's some like diehard Yeba fans where they're like, no one can sing like Yeba. Like, no one has sung like her and no one will, which is like whatever, I guess the culture. But I just think the songwriting and the vulnerability in this one are pretty epic. Um, and the one that I just got like really obsessed with it for a while is called How Many Years? And I was interested in why I was like so obsessed with it because I couldn't figure it out right away. So I was like, well, there's something happening there. And then I discovered that like the ends of each of her phrases end on thirds of the root. And I just started to get like obsessed with thirds and sixths. Like I would say that's kind of my like songwriting obsession for the past like maybe half a year because they're so strong. Like just I feel
Yeah.
like thirds and sixths are like they always have been and they always will be type of a thing. Um but I also like just the way that she sits and sings is like makes me want to try to just sit and sing because she's just like experiencing what her life is and like it's just kind of coming out and that's what's happening. I think she's really tasteful and also the musicians that she's singing with, man, are also just heavy. And I liked the home vibe too. Like you could see like a lead sheet, which I thought was cool. I'm like, ah, that type of thing. The backup vocals are like, they make me want to sing backup vocals. Anyways, I love it.
Yeah, the backup vocals are so tight, and it seems so effortlessly. Like she'll just be doing a run, and then they're kind of
Yeah.
doing it with her, and then they're harmonizing it. And
What
it's just
is
like,
that? I'm like, geez.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that like Charlie, you said best is like everything just seems so effortless. It's just like, oh yeah, they're just truly enjoying themselves in the moment. They're like, yeah, we're here.
And that to
Doing
me means that
music.
they know that stuff like so in and out. Like they've really internalized what they're doing,
Yeah.
which is like, that's it.
That's
Anyways.
Alex,
Advanced
what was your first tiny desk?
It was Kirk Franklin. And wow, that wasn't a good way to introduce Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin.
Opposite energy of Kirk Franklin.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. Well, Kirk Franklin, although this man has made, anyways, he's made a career out of like not singing at all, just like yelling. But he writes and arranges some of the most amazing music. And it was interesting because like whenever I think of Kirk Franklin, I think of like choirs, I think of like huge like places just like filled with joy. And here he is just like getting that same energy out of you with like no one in the room but him and his band and the choir. It's like, how do you still give that same amount of energy, still like same amount of vesselage? That's not a word, but I just made it a word.
I love it.
And just so much joy. And I was like, he like brought us like from the current to like, this man has been doing this for a long time. For like 30 years, has been making bops for 30 years,
Looks good.
making bops about Jesus for 30 years. Come on, bro. Anyways, yeah, I just love this. I was like listening to this concert a bunch, just like put me in such a good mood every single time. And yeah, the harmonies are great. Kirk is great. His yelling, I love his yelling, his attempting to sing, I love it. Like just all of it. I'm here for it. Everyone just looks like they're having a good time. Just like sit back, relax, and let's sing some good music. Yeah. Those were the vibes.
Good deal. Now we're going back to my number two. So that this is where I cheated in like the most heinous way ever. But I put two people.
Cheater.
I just like couldn't choose between Leanne LaHavas and Laura Mvula. Like these are again, like I'd never heard of these people before, and then I just like came upon their Tiny Desk concerts, and it just was like I was just like super duper uber fans of them, like just instantly. And I kind of I just couldn't choose to not have one of them on, and they felt like they made me feel a similar-ish kind of a thing, even though they're very different. But they made me kind of feel a similar thing, and so I just was gonna cheat, and since I was the last person to write in the document and send the article, it was like
Nobody told you, Charlie.
I know.
That's two.
Yeah. But yeah, awesome songwriters. It's so cool to see them like play and sing, and it's kind of they're both I think they're both vulnerable in like really kind of different ways. You know, like LaHavas is like so vulnerable, but like kind of like so smiley and stuff, and just kind of like seems very like cheerful and happy, and like and like Mavula's thing is like a little bit more like somber or like internalized or something. But they both like like when they sing and stuff, it just like really comes out of their body in like a similar way, even though they kind of like have very, very kind of different like personal energies or something, or the nonverbal communication kind of things. But yeah, that was my number two, 100% dig. I've done a bunch of those tunes now, and like I've had my
You
students do
sang.
those tunes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. That will forever be. That's one of those songs that is kind of like I have like a 5 cents memory of that song. Like not actually even
Wow.
performing it, just like conceptually. Because
Yeah.
it was just one of those songs.
Father, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. My second what are these called again?
444A.
Failure. My second tiny desk. All right, let me just try that one again. My second tiny desk is Tower of Power. Uh, I like sort of grew up listening to Tower of Power question mark. Like that was something that my dad would always be like, check this out. And like we would like listen to it. But to me, this vocalist was crazy. His name's Marcus Green, and he's just one of those captivating people. Like you just forget you're listening to someone singing and then it ends and you're like, what the heck just happened? Like he just totally captured my attention the entire time. And he was one of those people too who his energy was like just kind of flowing so much that you almost couldn't even I couldn't really like analyze him because I was too busy like in it with him. But he had this like I felt like it was like a circle of energy, like it was like going through him and out of him and everywhere. And I was like, what's happening right now? But he was so grounded.
Mm.
And I love that. It's something I want to try to like, I don't know if I have to do meditation or what, but I want to try to get to that because it's so infectious. It's like it's the best, I think, when you can captivate the whole time. And Tower of Power, like, I mean, the horns, whatever. Hello.
Groove.
Insane.
Pocket.
Groove. Pocket.
Alex is whispering in the back. Groove. Pocket. Groove. Horns.
My gosh, guys.
I also love Tower of Power because I think this is repetitive, but they just sit and play. Like, how great is that? I don't know what other people are doing because isn't that what we should all be doing? But there's this essence of like they're just existing and like things are coming out of them. Anyways, I probably should have stopped talking. Next.
Never stop talking.
Things are just coming out of them.
Pocket.
So my second tiny diskery was some more Pender Hughes. I'm obsessed with this man. Like I'm actually obsessed with this man like so much. And his sister Elena. Like I'm actually obsessed with her too. Like come on, that's not fair. But I enjoyed this tiny desk because it was like a full project. Like it was his tiny desk that it was like from the at home ones. And so he'd been working on this art installation in Oakland, where he's been doing this project about mass incarceration in America and what it looks like and what grief in a black man looks like and what mass incarceration can do to someone and to someone's mind and all of these things, exploring all those things. So he had been working on that, and then he had an album to go along with that. And so first off, like it's Samora and Elena, and then like my favorite, like one of my favorite vocalists of all time is like Elliot Skinner. Oh my gosh,
Crazy, dude.
whenever he sings, I cry.
He's crazy.
Anyways, it was like a whole production. He's like playing this like beautifully written music like in his art installation, and he like goes into different parts of like the different areas within the art project, and he like has some of his best friends singing with him and like singing about these really deep like subject matters. And it's like wow, this is just captures Samora so beautifully, and it captures like his mission, and he led us into like what he views his purpose within music is. So I really loved that one. I cried a lot, but it was good. Good crying, like just like felt everything.
Mhm.
Great.
Charlie.
You took a beat, Alex.
Great.
You have to give me a little credit. I took a beat.
He took
And
a
then
beat.
I said something really awkward and unrelated, which was great. So you have to give me credit. Okay, we'll move on. Round three. Round three, we get to the old men. At least, just in my case. So, Randy Newman is feels like an extended family member of mine. Like it feels like a great uncle of mine or something that is just like brilliant, and he'll like come over and hang out sometimes, and he like says funny things and really smart things, and he like plays the piano, and I'm just kind of like I I I have feelings for him like he's like a family member or something.
Mm.
But definitely one of my favorite songwriters. And uh, so this video, this Tiny Desk is him at 74. He kind of like messes up a little bit sometimes. He kind of seems like a little grumpy, even though he's like kind of being cute. And it's like, it just like it's like such legit kind of Randy Newman energy that I really love. And what I talked a little bit about in the article was just his piano playing, which I think is like it's not showy, but it's like this like string orchestration thing that's happening like in the piano all the time, and it's like moving around the things that he's like the it just all feels like it's working together, like all the puzzle pieces fit together. It's like harmonically what he's doing, and the voice leading stuff that he's doing and how it fits along with what he's singing. I've just like tried to like figure out a bunch of his piano playing, and it's like really it's way more complex than it even like sound. There's just like so much stuff going on. So I'm just a huge fan of his, and what's cool is like he sings basically all new music from this like newer album that he had at the time. But it's like, but you get like you hit all like the big Randy Newman beats. It's like, it's so funny that he does the music for the Pixar movies, because it's like, it's kind of, it almost feels like it's sculpted and like created in a lab to like make you feel these feelings in the same way a Pixar movie is. But he goes through and like does a political satire thing, a song about Putin, and he does like a really sentimental like folk tune called "Wandering Boy" that just like makes it's like, and then he sings this love song "She Chose Me" that I learned, and I play that song all the time, and it just is like it just kills like it kills me if I'm playing it for other people, it kills them, and it's like um, it just they're just like little nuggets. They just like work. Like they just hit that emotional thing. And he's like 74. And um, yeah, I don't know. It's like his like life and career in some ways is kind of like a dream that it's like, oh, I can be 74 and like still be like doing things that kind of like there's a timelessness to his thing
Mm.
in a way. It's just like an old man. It's like he's always kind of been an old man. It's like that's a kind of the vibe. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna play the piano and there's gonna be a thing. But
Yes.
anyways, it hit me in the feels. Very simple little Tiny Desk concert, but Randy Newman.
Randy Newman. Next up is Jasmine Sullivan. Um, I would just say like when I listened to this Tiny Desk the first time was just kind of like one of those like landmark things where you like kind of remember how you felt and like what was going on. Um, because she's I mean, I love her originals. They sound great. I also think she just kind of like does her. Like she's just out here like doing her thing, singing her songs. And she in the Tiny Desk, I don't really know like how much she does this overall because I really have only kind of if you will, shed this project that she did hotels. Um, but I love that she improvised because I feel like I don't know. I've just gotten kind of mixed reviews from different mentors about like improvising and when and where, which is kind of silly because I feel like improvising should just be personal and stuff. But seriously, like people have said, like, well, you wouldn't want to do this because whatever, or like you maybe shouldn't do that. Like, whatever. There's just such a thing. I think, especially with singing, but I love improvising. Like, I think it's like maybe number one or number two in terms of like what makes me feel most fulfilled or like personally seen by myself in music. Like I feel so myself when I'm improvising. So whatever. I guess it was just cool to see somebody who just like she just like sang a little bit and it was cool and I was like, "Oh, okay. Like people do that. Okay, that's cool. I'll do that if I want to." I don't know. It was sort of like freeing in a way for me because she just was doing her thing. And I think I maybe more now feel comfortable to do my own thing, but I do think I do care like a lot about what at least mentors or people that I respect think. So I had like the thing happen where when people would say things, I would kind of have to like sit with it for a while because when they would first say it, I would be like, oh, that's right. Like, that's correct. And so, whatever. I think she was just somebody that helped me figure out what I think or like what I like and that it doesn't really matter, period. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just make your art. So, I think she's doing that, which is cool.
Yeah, I like how every like performance from her is different.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not gonna hear the same performance from her every night, which I think is so beautiful.
She was also so
Yeah.
chill. Like she had her hands in her pockets. I feel like sometimes I sing with my hands in my pockets and I've had voice teachers be like, "What are you doing? Don't do that." Like, which okay, yeah, in like a lesson, I guess. But I just liked that it was almost like we happened upon her, you know? She's like, "Yeah, I'm just doing my thing. Hey."
Yeah. It was weird. Like her career has been like kind of different, right? She came up, bust your windows out, you come. And then like didn't hear anything from her. Like that's like 2009.
I know people have I like read that somewhere where she'll just like drop something and then be like, "See you guys." Like,
Yeah, man. And then she
I don't
like
know.
drops Hotels. And then she
Yeah.
drops Hotels deluxe version. I'm like, okay, do it to us again.
Yeah, I actually heard this Tiny Desk. I think it was like during the pandemic, right? Because it's like a home
Yes.
one too.
Yeah.
I heard
Mhm.
this and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then like I put it on, I put her new album on, like the album that there's kind of promoting or whatever. And like Maddie came home and she's like, what are you listening to? This is so saucy. Like this is like there are a lot of there's a lot of strong sexual language in this. And I was like, yeah, I saw the Tiny Desk. So I'm like in the crew. It's totally my energy now. So
That's the thing. She's just like so, it's her energy, and she hasn't even, it seems like she's not even like, what do people think? She's just like, hey, which
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I think so
Yeah.
much about what people think. I try not to, but I just love that she's like, this is me. Hey,
Yeah.
I don't really
And she
care what
brought
you
her
think
friends
about
into
it.
it too. She brought her friends into it.
Yeah.
On the album, her friends are making some confessions. Jesus be offense. Oh my goodness. Sorry.
Well said. Well said.
Is it my turn? Oh, Chris
Yeah.
Stapleton. If you need to know
Big
anything about
energy
me,
shift. Like, whoa.
energy shifts.
Sorry.
like Randy Newman to
Jasmine.
Jasmine's
that was not enough. Now
Chris Stapleton. One thing about me is I am a Chris Stapleton stan, except for Tennessee whiskey. Anything else, I love Chris Stapleton. Anyways, because it's I'd rather go blind. Anyways, yeah, I'm a sucker for Chris Stapleton, and this one was him and his wife. Him and his wife are always on tour together. So it was nice to like hear them in a stripped down version and just to like hear Chris's voice just do its thing. Because it sounds like he was born in the mud, like in the best way possible. Like there's just so much like earth in his voice. Like you can hear the generations that have come before him in his voice. Like, and just like the like his writing is not complex at all. It's just like I'm telling this story because this is a story that I wrote. And this song I wrote for my wife, and you can tell I wrote it for my wife because it
Aw.
says this. It was this situation we were having. I'm just like, thank you. This is just like I don't have. I love. Don't get me wrong. I love me some like metaphors and all this stuff, but also just like some simple "I love you." You know, it's just like something that I think gets lost a lot of the time because we get to be so intellectual about it. And he's like, no, I'm just going to take you back to the mud. I'm going to take you back to the earth and like the simplicity of what life is. So yeah, that's my take on the Chris Stapleton. I just love a good old like husband wife acoustic guitar singing show thing.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it feels like it's just as much like of a folk tradition or something than it is country. Like it sounds really country, but like some of like the like what you're describing of the writing too, and just kind of like listening to it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this like it has like some Bob Dylan in it or something, or or some of that process or whatever,
Yeah.
which is a way for me to kind of get into it, not being like as much of a country person.
No, me too. He was one of the first people I listened to where I was like, "Oh, I like this." Because I would before him, I probably would have said, "Not that into it of
Yeah.
country," which is probably like I probably wasn't shedding it. So like, what? Who am I? But
Figuring it out.
but like he was somebody that I feel like just brought me in. I'm like, okay, okay, Chris
Yeah.
Stapleton.
That's how exactly how I felt. I was like, especially in like the jazz world, they're like country music. And I'm like, but have you heard Chris Stapleton?
I mean, there was a long time where it was just kind of like, it was totally, you could say, people said this all the time. I like all kinds of music except for country and rap. Like I remember growing up and like people would say that, like in the 90s and stuff. It was just like, that was kind of like the most middle of the road, middle of the bell curve sort of like thing you could say. It's just like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, okay, they're cool. They don't like the weird, like niche things like country and rap. And obviously now rap is like pop music, like hip hop is pop
Yeah.
music. But um, I've always dug like the actual sounds of country music, like the tones of it and all that kind of stuff. I think the thing that was always hard for me to really connect with was actually like lyrically, like the stories that they were telling, like some of the things that they were talking about was harder for me to connect with or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I like the sounds of it. And so like what you're saying, like when things are like a little bit more um I don't know, like with country songs that are kind of like about things that I can relate to and are kind of in language that I kind of a little bit more understand, like the Chris Stapleton thing, like even though like you said it's like he has this very like old earthy kind of a like a quality to him, like there's another, again, like it's like a timelessness to it, like lyrically and stuff, it's like I'm kind of like going along with it, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like just about drinking or all like kind of like the trope kind of things
Yeah.
that can be kind of the country music that like my sister listens to. It's like the pop country stuff. It's just
Oh yeah,
like,
we'll go to the football game and we'll have ourselves a beer and sit on the yard. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's like that's fine. Have fun.
Have fun.
I'm going to a totally different party. Anyways, well, sorry, I kind of like I bogarted that.
No, no,
No.
no.
We'll move on to round four, our final round. So my last one was Chick Corea and Gary Burton. Um, so yeah, this is
Yes.
like 44 years of them playing together, like hundreds and hundreds of concerts and tons of recordings together. And this is just so cool that it's just like it's just them playing duo in a room, like looking at each other, and you can like see like the little subtle interactions between them, and it sounds so good. I think it sounds a lot better than like some of the other like recordings, just in terms of like audio quality and stuff. But yeah, I just dig it. I was kind of like, oh, maybe I won't put this on. It's like the hardcore jazz thing or something. But with Chick being gone now and stuff too, like such an important part. And I think Gary Burton is such an important person too, like in the community, and for like kind of who he is as a person, but also just like his playing and stuff. I think he really transcends the instrument. I think in a similar way that kind of Chick transcends his instrument too. So, um, yeah, I actually felt I watched this again last week, and I was like I was feeling very sentimental about it, just because I
Hmm.
love Chick so much, and I love his music so much, and so it was just It was just kind of, yeah, it was nostalgic or something in some sort of way. I don't know them personally, or
That's
yeah,
what
Chicory and
I
Gary
love
Burton.
about. No, what did you say?
I just said
Now I'm cutting
Chicory
you
and
off.
Gary Burton. It was like,
It's one thing I love about the Tiny Desk series though is that there are so many different musicians featured. I just have felt like maybe because of what you said, like it becoming more mainstream, but maybe starting as more of like in the musician realm. Like it's just really cool to me how many different musicians are on there and what you can find. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
It,
nope. So
nope.
that's you.
You got it.
So my fourth one, my fourth Tiny Desk, Mac Miller. I love Mac Miller. I really do. My first introduction to him was more of like the Ariana Grande, like, I love the way you make me feel. Uh, but I love his album. Is it? I'm gonna be fake right now, but is it Swimming Pools? Is that what it's called, or is that a song? It's Swimming Pools, right? Okay. I love that album because I was listening to it recently. He also says stuff that's like, I hope people
Heavy.
were listening or are listening because that's like some heavy stuff sometimes. And I think he is just honest or was honest in his art. And um, yeah, I guess I wrote in here, he lets the music speak for itself, which I think that's like a theme for me. I really appreciate when artists, when music is like the top priority, which maybe is going back to the vessel thing. Like we're just vessels for music, but I also just love like the harmony of like his stuff as well. I think it's really interesting. And it's still accessible to like a lot of different people, no matter
Yeah.
like what kind of music they understand or relate to or want to be a part of. Like I think it hits like a lot of different things. That's kind of a weird way to put that, but yeah.
And I agree. His flow is like so nice.
Hmm.
Like so many like his subject matter, like I think that's why we tend to not listen because his flow is just like so I don't even know how to describe it. It's just so like he's just speaking to us. You
Hmm.
know, it's like how he would just like talk to you in a sentence. Like
Yeah.
or talk to you in everyday conversations. Like that's just, you know, that's how what his flow is, which is what brings I feel like for me that's what brings me into Mac Miller. It's just like his flow and like how he's just like, but you I don't even want to I don't want to rap. I'm not even gonna attempt. So
groove.
but
Groove. What was
I
the other
think you hit
word?
it though.
Oh, pocket.
Pocket. But yeah, like because it's so like delivered so eloquently, we're just like, oh wait, he's really talking about some stuff right now.
Yes, it happened to me at the end of one of the songs. There was I don't remember what the title was, but at the end, this was like not the Tiny Desk. This was me listening to his like recorded albums, but he was like I had a moment where I was like he's saying things to me like I yeah, which I think it's interesting because like sometimes maybe people feel like they can't say things in real life, so they would say it in music. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think sometimes you get like an honesty that you maybe wouldn't get unless you're really close with somebody, which is so it's like such an interesting concept to me.
Yeah. I think it's like an interesting concept for rap
Yeah, absolutely.
in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Mac Miller too, and the in this video for me it's like the Thundercat thing, the him and Thundercat or whatever, and it's like, and you can just tell they're like so like they're such huge fans of each other, like they're just so stoked about it's like Mac Miller starts like rapping and like singing and stuff, and like Thundercat is just like very stoked about it, and then it's like Thundercat like there's like a break and Thunder goes like and like Mac Miller's just like, oh, that was good, and it was just like that's for me that's like the best part of that specific like
Hmm.
video for me. I'll say for me a couple more times, but love Mac Miller. We got one more
Ah,
for Foray.
Alex, that's me.
Yeah.
And that's coffee. Coffee. Wow. Okay. So interesting story. So I first heard her. I was getting my first tattoo. Uh, and I was like, wow, this restaurant was playing this song. It was really loud because we're in Miami. Of course, the music is like blasting from the restaurant. And I was like, who is this person? And I was like, this is like vibes. It's like, and then it was like coffee. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I go home, I'm like, coffee. And I see her tiny desk. And I'm like, this is her? And she's like short as me, like 5'1", and like packs. I don't think she understands what she's doing to reggae music. Like, I think we've all heard like on the radio now, like everybody's getting obsessed with like Afrobeat and everything. But this reggae that she was like, she's obviously like engaged with like the reggae sensitivities of her, but also like this African type thing sensitivities that she has going on, which I totally enjoyed. And it was like I felt like I was drunk or something when I was listening to her music because I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never heard something like this before, you know? And especially with someone like her, like women in reggae music is like almost donde está, like where are the women in reggae music? So to have her like be this cool person who's like transforming the music, but she's also super young and she's also like a super cool woman. Um, I thought was really cool. Yeah, I just like her vibes overall. She was like so chill with it. She was like, I don't know. Yeah, and the melodies are so easy to sing. You're just like, oh, by the time like the song is over, you know the song. And you're like, oh yeah, I can sing
That's
this all day,
amazing.
you know? Anyways, yeah, that's coffee, spelled with K.
I had not heard of this of coffee before. This band or this artist, and like, it's kind of shocking. Like, it's shocking to hear the sounds that are coming out of the person. She's so tiny and young looking, and but yeah, just so killing. It was great. I'm like a new fan. I'm a brand new fan because of you putting this on the list, Alex. So
Yes.
congrats, you did it. I mean, it's true of this whole list. I think this was really fun and cool. If folks out there have ideas or suggestions for us to do more lists like this for the Substack or for the podcast, please let us know. But I think that kind of wraps it up for us.
Yeah.
Wrap it
Yeah,
up.
we're gonna wrap it up, wrap it in, pack
Wrap
it up,
it up.
pack it in. Let me begin. Okay, Amy, you want to read us out?
Absolutely. Thank you for listening and supporting Foray Music. For more, follow us on Instagram at Foray Music, subscribe to our newsletter at foraymusic.substack.com, and check out our brand spanking new website at foraymusic.com. I love saying brand spanking new, if you couldn't tell.
We're not going to be able to say that for that much longer. So
I know.
maybe the last week it will be brand spanking new.
We're
Next week it will
Brand
be
speaking
sort of,
new.
kind of new. Still,
kind of new.
still has a little bit of that new website smell.
Ooh.
Mm-mm. Oh, because most people listen just enough to respond.
We think you're super. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.